Or better yet, something that found us.
Now, with all the latest stories making the headlines this evening, it's the ITV News.
The cracks in Putin's regime, America's assessment of a weekend of chaos in Russia. Washington's top diplomat says the military revolt raises profound questions about who's in charge in Moscow and who's calling the shots in its invasion of Ukraine.
We haven't seen the last act yet, but we can say this. First of all, what we've seen is extraordinary, and I think you've seen cracks emerge that weren't there before.
Also tonight, the Prime Minister promises the biggest workforce expansion in the history of the NHS. England's women have it all to do after losing late wickets against Australia, and Sir Elton saves the best to last with his swan song at Glastonbury.
This is ITV News with Geraint, Vincent.
Good evening. World leaders are wondering tonight about the stability of the government in a nuclear superpower after an extraordinary internal challenge to the authority of Vladimir Putin. An army of mercenaries who have been fighting in Ukraine mutinied and began a march on Moscow. President Putin condemned them as traitors, but then did a deal with their leader to get him to call off the rebellion. America's Secretary of State said the revolt revealed real cracks in Putin's regime and its military command. Here's our Europe editor, James Mates.
The morning after Putin's longest day. Before dawn breaks, the mercenary soldiers of the Wagner Group pull out of the southern city of Rostov, release their grip on Putin's war-fighting headquarters here, and head back towards the Ukraine battlefields. But watch the reaction of ordinary people to this mutiny. The moment the dictator's grip was loosened, they were on the streets cheering the rebels. It is clear that dissatisfaction runs deep here. Vladimir Putin had promised in a TV address the mutiny would be crushed. In the event, he was forced to negotiate. Despite the release of behind-the-scenes footage intended to show him taking charge, he settled for a messy compromise, not a decisive show of strength. Russians will have noticed, and so has the rest of the world.
What's so striking about it is it's internal. The fact that you have from within someone directly questioning Putin's authority, directly questioning the premises that upon which he launched this aggression against Ukraine. That in and of itself is something very, very powerful. It adds cracks. Where those go, when they get there, too soon to say.
The chief mutineer, Yevgeny Prigozhin, left Rostov late last night en route to exile in Belarus. His future may be precarious. In the old saying, when you strike at a king, you must kill him. Recruitment posters for his Wagner Group are already being pulled down in Moscow. But if he isn't seen to pay a price personally, Putin will appear weaker still to a Russian elite who have smelt blood.
I think it's damaged Putin very badly. We'll see if it's actually caused serious damage to the morale of the Russian army in Ukraine. And I think it's put in question at least political cohesion amongst the elite in Russia. So I think this is one act in a drama that we're going to see continuing to unfold over the coming weeks and months.
What is clear now is that 24 hours of Russians fighting Russians, of fuel supplies destroyed and helicopters shot down, can only have helped Ukraine. They see an enemy in disarray at home, if not yet on the battlefield, which can only add to their belief that a victory can be won. James Mates, ITV News.
Well, our correspondent Emma Murphy is in the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, tonight. She sent us this update a short time ago.
As you might imagine, there's as much fascination and speculation about what's gone on in Russia over the past 36 hours here in Ukraine as there is anywhere else in the world. But there's certainly no more clarity on exactly what has unfolded. The reality on the battlefield is that things haven't changed very much. Ukraine made that push forward yesterday. Perhaps they were able to kind of exploit the situation that was going on, but in reality this is part of the counter-offensive that they've been planning for some time. In terms of the day-to-day reality, well, nothing has really changed here. There's been over 60 attacks on different parts of this country, on civilian targets, on military targets, and they will continue. The sirens are ever present. What went on in Russia yesterday did give people here great hope. They did have a moment where they thought that perhaps this might be the moment that things change, that Putin might go, that he might be significantly weakened. The reality is that hasn't come to pass. He is still there in the Kremlin. The battle still rages in the east of this country, and people who are living their everyday lives in every other city of this country continue to be very well aware of the threat that they face every single moment.
Anna Murphy in Kiev. Now, Rishi Sunak has conceded it will take time to bring down NHS waiting times in England. There are currently a record 4.7 million people on a waiting list. This week, the Prime Minister will announce what he says will be the largest expansion of training in the history of the service. Martha Fairley reports.
Hi everyone, how are you?
It's a key pledge of his premiership. Judge me, says Rishi Sunak, on my ability to cut NHS waiting times. But at hospitals across the country, that task is troubling, made tougher by the high number of job vacancies that just can't be filled.
But then you did the training.
We did the training.
Right.
The NHS has now come up with a plan, backed by the government, to train more doctors and nurses in the largest expansion of its workforce in its 75-year history. But the government admits it will take time before the benefits begin, despite the pressure being felt right now.
It will take time for the overall waiting list to come down because as we've recovered from COVID and people have come back, it was always going to take time. But what I can tell you is that because of our record investment today, because of the plans that we've got in place, we are seeing that waiting lists are coming down.
There are currently more than 100,000 vacancies in the NHS in England, representing 8% of all jobs. And as it takes 3 years to train a nurse and 7 years to train a doctor, it's unclear how soon it'll help to reduce the record 7.4 million people in England waiting for treatment. And it's hampered too by ongoing industrial action. The longest ever walkout by junior doctors is scheduled over 5 days next month.
This workforce plan is just one part of the jigsaw. It's absolutely essential that we seek to resolve ongoing industrial disputes in the immediate and short term. And we would really urge government and the unions to come to the table to explore that.
Labour's similar plan to properly staff the health service was announced last year, to be paid for by tightening up tax rules. It says the government is now following suit after much delay.
The government appears to have decided that after rubbishing that idea for 9 months, that is in fact a good idea. We're very pleased with that. We'd like to see the detail of that. We only wish that they'd come to their senses earlier. If they'd done this 10 years ago, we wouldn't be facing huge recruitment and retention problems.
The details that make up this plan will be announced next week, but its impact won't be felt anytime soon. Martha Fairley, ITV News.
A 15-year-old girl has died after being pulled from the sea off Cleethorpes. A search and rescue mission was launched after the girl and a boy, who was also 15, were reported missing at around lunchtime yesterday. They were both airlifted to hospital, where the girl later died. The boy has since been discharged. An investigation has begun into what caused a failure of the national 999 phone system. Service was restored after about an hour after switching to a backup system. BT has ruled out third-party involvement as the cause. And it's been revealed that the Duchess of York has undergone successful surgery for breast cancer. A spokesman for Sarah Ferguson said she was diagnosed during a recent routine mammogram screening. Cricket, and England's women have been trying to get the better of Australia in the Ashes Test at Trent Bridge. Like the men earlier this week, fortunes swung back and forth on a dramatic penultimate day. But it's the Aussies who'll be starting tomorrow on the front foot. Chris Scudder watched the action.
A fight back from England's bowlers, and with it a chance to win the Ashes Test. The first wicket cost nearly 100 runs, but then the stumps were clattered time and again. Lauren Filer's 2 quick strikes set the tone. Then the spin of Sophie Eccleston took over. The key breakthrough was Beth Mooney, out for 85. Eccleston, the world's #1 ranked bowler, finished with 10 wickets in the match, the best Ashes haul for 20 years. 268 England's target for victory, but after a bright start they lost first innings double centurion Tammy Beaumont for 22. Then trouble. And from 55 for none they collapsed to 73 for 4. A 5th wicket fell before the close, and with 152 runs still needed, it now looks like Australia's match to lose. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And finally tonight, Elton John is bringing down the curtain on the Glastonbury Festival in what he said will be his last show in the UK. In front of thousands of fans, he performed hit after hit from his more than 50 years in the music business. And he also revealed to the crowd that Glastonbury was the one place where he never thought he'd get to play, as Sam Holder reports.
A Glastonbury headline slot for the history books, Elton John's first time at the festival. And fans were out early to get a spot.
We got to bed about 2 a.m. last night, set the alarm for 6, and got ready and ran down here, and I am not moving.
And it was the right decision, because on what's set to be his final ever show on British soil, the crowd was gargantuan. Elton kicked off with his version of Pinball Wizard. And the first sing-along came with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
I never thought I'd ever play Glastonbury. And here I am. And it's a very special and emotional night for me because it may be my last show ever in England and Great Britain. And you can tell everybody this is just song.
So, at the very last opportunity, after a career of more than 50 years, finally, Elton John headlining the Pyramid stage.
How wonderful life is while you're in the world.
Sam Holder, ITV News.
And that is it for tonight. From all the weekend team, good night.
Today we'll see warmer temperatures moving in from the east, especially around tea time. Heinz Beans sponsors ITV National Weather.
A very good evening to you. After the humid, muggy air of late, a different feel into the new week, feeling much fresher into the next few hours with sunshine and showers through much of tomorrow. As for the next few hours, any heavy thundery downpours will tend to ease, and then a quieter night on the cards. Feeling fresher from the west with a bit more of a breeze, a little more comfortable for sleeping compared to recent nights, but staying very mild. Not much below 14 or 15 degrees for some of us as we slide into the first hours of the new day. And it will be warm from the word go as the sunshine gets to work. A really lovely morning to start the new week, but then hit and miss showers get going across Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland, moving through quite swiftly in the brisk breeze, but some heavy and potentially thundery. Further south staying dry, a little more cloud compared to today, and in the strong sunshine, highs of 24 or 25 degrees, staying a little breezier further north and further west, and here feeling much fresher as well. Have a good night.
Heinz Beans sponsors ITV National Weather.
No, you don't.